This is partners in the process, 'cause we're built better together.
Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate you, Ken Baden, coming to us all the way from Maryland, right? Are you in Potomac, Maryland? Is that right?
I wish I was in Potomac, Maryland. We
Potomac,
use
Maryland?
Potomac. I'm in Maryland, but I'm in actually Annapolis, Maryland's nice. We're right outside of Annapolis. We're in Crofton, Maryland. But Potomac is like where all the money is, the Real Housewives
Oh.
of Potomac.
Hey,
That's
I've
why we
seen
use the
I've
name
seen your
Potomac.
house. You don't have a bad house. You have a nice
Oh,
house. A
no,
beautiful house.
I'm very, very blessed, man. And we live in a wonderful neighborhood in Annapolis, Maryland. And Annapolis is the capital, and it's a beautiful area. But Potomac's like the even more bougie, like I would guess, most affluent area in Maryland, if I had to guess.
So is that why you use that for your name for your company?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Kind of attach yourself to that?
Yeah, man. We wanted to, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we wanted to capitalize on, that's everybody here knows like, oh yeah, Potomac, and it's got this like elegance, ring of elegance to it. And that's kind of what we were, to your point, looking to attach ourselves to.
I got you. Which is smart marketing, right? And so your background,
Oh,
sales, is that your background?
that is my background. Yep. Sales. I've been in sales for 20 plus years. And I've been in specifically like home remodeling sales or in home services for 17 years. 17 or 18 this August.
And then of that 17, 18, how much of it was you doing by yourself, doing it for yourself?
Well, Potomac is going into its fourth year, and then we had a company before this that was me and a partner, so I'd still consider that, for myself, for almost 3 years. So 7 years of that being just me and a partner.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do during this podcast, I don't really want to look at it as an interview. I'd really like to look at it as just a cadence back and forth between who Ken Baden is and a little bit of who we are and what we do. But I don't really want to talk a lot about us, but just for some context so we understand what we like to do and why we were so eager for you to have your wife on is we really like to talk to couples about their business, whether they're in business together, doing it day to day, or the fact that you're married and doing business. I mean, even if you're carrying 90% of your business and she's helping you with 10% of it, sometimes that 10% of it is a major part of what it kind of catalyzes you to push forward and motivates you to keep moving and kind of is the security. Like at times she was maybe that 10 or 20% for me and I was pulling all the weight. But if I didn't have that 10 or 20% of her, it really wouldn't have worked, you know?
Yes, 100%.
So I kind of wanted to just a little background of who you were and the company, how long you've been in business. You're in roofing, just roofing, or do you do roofing and solar also?
We had a whole solar department last year. The end of this last year, we just kind of nixed that and just focused. We want to, I really wanted to, I got a whole lot I could talk about as far as lessons I've learned just in this past year, and I won't go into that yet, but like a lot of costly and, not sexy, but valuable lessons for other people to learn on my, my time. But we decided to shrink down and just say, okay, you know what? Let's focus on what's the driving force here, which was roofing. We looked at all the numbers, roofing. We were doing roofing, solar, and bathrooms. I know it's a weird combo, but it's just, what we're marketing that we could ascend as a good, better, best package, or typically solar package as well with roofing anyhow. So to answer your question, yes, we can upsell it now. We will upsell it now, but as far as like its own division, it's kind of just been like, okay, let's focus on roofing right now. The market and climate here currently, for me personally, I believe that that's the better avenue. Yeah, that's the better avenue for right now. It'll come back though. Solar's not going anywhere. I just think right now here it's a little difficult.
I got you. So as far as focusing on roofing, then how long of a season do you guys really have up there? Because I mean, being up far up where you're at, how far is your season for really being productive in roofing?
Great question, man. Honestly, where we're at, we get weird, what do they call them? I don't know. We get really mild summer or winters sometimes, and it's not a guarantee. We could have, snow, but some companies will slow down. Most everybody slows down. Some will not install at all. Basically, what we do is we have to kind of play weatherman, and if it's below a certain temperature, we won't install. But it's very rare. Maybe a few weeks where we just can't. But it is a pain in the butt. So we can technically install most of the year.
Do you guys lean into any more of those the home remodels, any of the kitchens or baths or windows, siding, anything like that when roofing's not, the best at a time or anything like that? Or do you pretty much just going narrow and deep on that?
I mean, now we're going narrow and deep, but to answer your question, before that was exactly why we always had like, and again, I've learned some lessons recently on that. I've learned that, last year we had these different products for similar reasons as just you just explained, like, hey, in the winter it's going to get slower. Let's
Mhm.
have some complementary products, and it'd be wonderful if they had different seasons,
Yeah.
for cash flow purposes. And a lot of those other divisions, while when we looked at those numbers, we're like, hey, this isn't sustainable or isn't viable or it's not ideal with like we have a very specific goal and net profit margin, all those things, right? And
Mhm.
on a long-term basis, it's not sustainable. Well, what it was doing though short-term was masking inefficiencies with the insurance restoration roofing model here locally with cash flow, right? Because we were
Mhm.
seeing, well, yeah, this isn't ideal long-term with this, or this, maybe bathrooms or windows or whatever, but it's also currently helping with the cash flow issue that insurance restoration roofing is experiencing. And so we're
That's
feeling
just
the,
the holdup times for insurance paying out, correct?
and it's just a variable that drives everybody crazy, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
the length has gotten so much longer, and they're doing so much more to like delay and just play games. And
See, and
if
that's
you're
a
familiar,
great entrepreneurial point to talk to people about because cash flow is a lifeblood of a business. I could have all the work in the world lined up. If I've got 90-day receivables on everything and they're holding me out at hundreds of thousands of dollars, that can kill most people.
yeah,
You know
and
what I mean? I got
I
crews that
do
want to
know
get
exactly
paid,
what you mean.
you
100%.
know? Yeah. I talked to a buddy of mine one time. He did some government work and he got held up 6 months, if I do remember right. And they owed him right at like, I think it was just under 900 grand. And I remember talking to him and he's like, I had a conversation with my accountant and my mom, and I was like, if I don't get paid in the next 2 weeks,
We're done.
we're done. He's
Yeah.
like, I went all in on this and they're holding everything from me. He said he did get paid, which then, kind of helped him catalyst into the next 3 years of what he did there. But I mean, that's really saying something. And it's great to be ambitious and jump into something and be like, oh, I'm gonna go be a roofer. We've had a lot of people be like, because I'm in trucking also, and I've had a lot of people jump in and be like, I'm gonna go get a truck and drive a truck. And I'm like, we'll find those clients. Like we talked about receivables, because I can tell you right now, the fuel man wants his fuel every week. Your guys want to be paid every week. They want benefits. The benefits come out when they come out. You know what I mean? Things
Yeah.
break. When they break, you got to pay for them when they break. And so all that stuff doesn't quit. So you need to really focus on that cash flow to some degree. So in your guys' business and construction, it's super crucial, I'd imagine. How many
Yeah.
crews do you have?
Um, I mean, each crew has like three crews, so I'd say three, six, nine, probably nine active crews. Over the course of those two areas that were mainly focused in Delaware and Maryland. I mean, I'd say one crew is really three crews. You know what I mean? Like
Sure,
each
sure.
of those have three, maybe four that they use that, we know, trust, we know they do good work. You know what I mean? And we
Yeah,
know the name of the team lead or crew lead rather that's going to be out there. So
I got you. Well, and I
probably,
go
yeah.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I just I'm not looking at, I'm that I can remember. That's who we have. I have a production manager that knows all those guys a lot better than I do. When I was doing it, it was just one crew, and then one crew had two crews and then three crews. And you know what I mean? I knew all those guys personally really, really well.
When did you
Now,
start stepping back? When did you start stepping back to work on it instead of working in it?
probably more last year, if I'm being honest. I mean, the company's still in its infancy in that, like, it doesn't feel that way because, and honestly, it's got me in some trouble, man. I
I hear
had that
you.
first company, and that company was the exact same model, and it was a partnership, and that partnership didn't go well. I learned a lot of lessons with that. I was doing this as a VP, and I wanted to do it for myself, and I was afraid that I couldn't get the license and my background, man. And so there were a lot of things there. And at the time I was only like 18 months sober
Mhm.
and just didn't have the confidence. But I had the confidence to like jump out there, but not by myself. And
Sure.
so, and again, I was afraid I couldn't get the license. And so I found a buddy of mine that would, and we had 3 good years almost of making money, learning lessons, doing all the things it takes to build a business and learn all the hard lessons together. And I'm talking everything. I'm knocking doors, I'm selling deals, I'm, going door to door with one other sales rep. And like, we really from ground up did everything as grassroots as you could possibly. I mean, building a canvas team, ground up, driving those guys around, picking them up every day. And before I finally felt comfortable enough with the one guy that I trusted that he's going to start driving them around. So I did everything in the business at one point myself. And then I found somebody to basically replace me. But then I had a whole new business. So it felt like 3, 4 years in when it was day one, because, we just kind of went our separate ways. When we started this one, it was designed to focus on insurance. Like, hey, let's take a look at what this insurance stuff has got going on over here. We're doing roofing, we do retail. Why does everybody go into insurance? What's up? Like, let's take a look. And so that company became my company because it was already in my name. I was the one that wanted to do it. He didn't agree with it. He didn't think it was smart. And I said, well, we'll take a risk then with this one, right? If it doesn't work out, it's going to hurt the baby, which has been coddled and built up over almost 3 years. And it worked. But just like you said, I mean, I had at the beginning there, same thing, right? Like, if we don't get paid, we're going down, right? Like, we've got all these jobs, and it's not like retail. It's not just install it, get paid. We're looking at
business is what it is. It's a cash
100%.
suck business. It's not a cash flow business.
No.
These blue collar jobs, the trucking, construction, painting. I've talked to several different people. I'm like, these are jobs where you put forth the service and then you get paid on the backside most of the time. They're not always that way. But that's typically how they are. The cash flow businesses, this is the product I have, you pay me for it, like retail, and then you get the product. Those are a lot more sustainable business models to some degree.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, well, the nice thing with insurance too is that they will give you what they call the ACV check, which is sort of like the down payment, but it's not guaranteed to be that 33% or 30%. You know what I mean? That third. It's not whatever it is. I mean, it's basically the value of what they determine it is at the time of loss, so that could be how depreciated is the roof. And so it's different, man. It's a whole lot different. And I'm still learning things where it's just like I said, I mean, we masked a lot of the inefficiencies with that because we were always doing something else. And so we decided, okay, we're working towards a private equity exit. That, but if, just for your viewers, like, we knew with this company, that was always my goal, is like, I want to build, scale, and exit. That's just what I want to do. And now I have all this proof in the pudding with other people having done it, that they being private equity, they're buying these businesses. So there's all this like fire under my behind to do it. And I feel like I'm 3 years behind, man, to be honest with you, because I had 3 years at another business that I worked really hard to build. And it's still there. It didn't go anywhere. We split. I didn't do anything crazy or go through any crazy like lawsuits or anything. Like, we didn't sign anything the right way. And so I was like, you know what, man, this is still Maryland's an implied contract state, but it doesn't matter. I was like, dude, I'm over it. I know what I can do, and I can do this again. But I'd be lying if I didn't say, like, I keep going back to why it's that. I find myself forgetting, like, I didn't get to apply those 3 years here. You know what I mean? So like this.
Yeah, but it was a training ground, right? I mean, you the things that you learned there, you are applying to this. You just don't get to apply the time.
Right, 100%. So like, yes, the
skill sets.
100%. I guess it's more. I find myself trying to fast track and replicate here and skip steps. And if there's one, Brandon James and I were just talking the other day, and he was like, "Oh, you can't skip steps." And he's right. You can't. Like, I tried, and I tried to skip past the things that I had to go through there because I'm like, well, screw that. I don't want to go through that again. I'm gonna do this clever thing, and it's just no, you can't. You can't skip steps, man. And so
you can't escape the suck. The suck is necessary to get where you want to go, man.
Yes. Well, I'm deeply embracing the suck currently.
Yeah. I'm deeply sucking right now as we speak.
Because we've done the same thing with our clinic, because we started the Man Up, Woman Up clinic, the franchise. We jumped into that. And you do expect it to go a lot faster and us not to have to be there all the time. And that is just not the case.
I mean, you have to replicate the same steps that you built the first one with to the second one, to the third one. But now with the end being an exit, it does change the beginning a little bit, Because if you look at the end as the beginning of the end, so like basically I look at the end result that I want, and then I reverse engineer the process from the beginning so that I can meet the end, because I have to have the end in mind the whole time. So when you're looking at a private equity, I know I had seen some stuff you were talking about how you kind of went all in. You sold some toys, got rid of all the stuff you were messing with, watches, cars, things like that, because you wanted to invest everything in this company, take it to a $50 million company by the end of 26, get your EBITDA up to where you were showing a net about 18%, I think you said roughly about 10 million. And then that's what you want to sell on. So that's a 2-year exit from now, right? Would you say would you say, regardless to the suck and how hard it is and the steps you have to take, do you think that it's there for you to be able to attain that goal by the end of 26? Manifesting it or not, is it on paper looking like it is trending the way you needed it to?
On paper, looking like that this year, probably not. But to me, I mean, I already know it still will. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know what to. I know this winter, like strategically, we operated in the red this winter, so like that's not going to look great because we knew, okay, we're scaling, we're spending money to make money, which is the easiest way to say it. Like we're opening a new office, and we're going to then obviously, ideally, double our revenue, or we weren't even attempting to do that. We had a very modest goal in Delaware because we know, like, okay, we have projections that we already know, like, what a year one office is probably going to do, right? And so if we apply our practices, we can probably beat that pretty good versus our year over year one, this business and the original business, right?
Yeah.
So those are the goals we have for Delaware. It's not the same in Maryland, right? Like Maryland has much bigger goals. So Maryland's corporate office goals. So
they get different rules too. I think I've heard you talk in the past about how the rules are very different about what you can do in each of those states, the permitting, all kinds of stuff. The type of, I think you said you were still waiting on some things to process or finalize. Like you had to take tests and all kinds of stuff in Delaware.
Yeah, dude. Virginia. Yeah. Delaware. It was very similar, but Virginia's been a nightmare, man. Virginia, I love, hey, we can't wait to be there. And in fact, we still have, what is today? Today I have something I have to do. I have to do something. Today's Wednesday. I have to do something today. But yes, it's been a paperwork, the test taking paperwork hell. And it's ironic that I found out that that test is supposedly the hardest test in Virginia because it's on so many random things. It's just so much source material. But anyhow, we'll that'll be fine. It's just Virginia's very different than Maryland. Maryland's very different than Delaware. And PA is totally different because they don't care. They just say register your business here, like Texas. Register your business, you're a roofer or you're a GC, right? Congratulations, come on in here. And you have to know what that means in terms of like, okay, well, it's probably gonna be heavily saturated if there's good business here and there's low barrier for entry. So
do you think the politics play a big part of that?
Probably. I mean, probably. I guess I couldn't really put, it does seem, yeah, actually. I mean, but then again, PA, I would say is if you're just going off of like, I don't know, like your standard conservative versus Democrat, like I think most of the ones around here, like, is Virginia maybe a little bit more Republican? Maryland's traditionally Democrat, so is PA. I think Delaware is too. They're all different. You know what I mean? Like PA doesn't care, but Maryland wants. So the local politics probably play a lot more into that. But it's all about money, man. Like,
yes.
At the end of the day, they just want your money. Who wants more of it? Virginia apparently likes a whole lot of it. So.
Yeah. And it's the weight's the problem. It's like, hey, if I had to pay X amount of dollars and knock this thing out in 2 weeks, we could do it. But it's like, hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait. Pay a little bit more money. Take another test. Hurry up and wait. And so it's the waiting that's, like you said, that's just exhausting. But I want to revisit for a second your partnership. One of the things we do a lot with people is work in partnerships. It does not only relationships, sometimes it is partnerships. If you kind of had to put a nail on any one thing, what do you think about that partnership kind of caused it to dissolve? What was it? Was it an ideology difference? Was it, the direction in which you wanted to take it versus they wanted to take it? Or what do you think really didn't work out about that?
It's a really good question, man. And I think that for listeners, this is something that you could benefit a lot from hearing and executing. We did not have clear, my wife would say, you got to embrace the awkward part of like putting expectations on paper and say like, in this case, she and I have a prenup. But I mean, she's an attorney, right? So she's like, listen, she came to me and was like, hey, you're a business owner. You should have this. I'm going to, as a responsible attorney, should tell you we should have this stuff. And, it really only spells out certain things in the business. It's not probably what you think because you can make it what you want, right? Like
Sure.
you have to be like all this, but you have to have those conversations. And he and I, we didn't. We were naive. And I think so many business partnerships start off the same way where it's like a friend of yours or a buddy or whoever. And it's like, okay, we got this piece of paper we're going to sign. And even then, what does that say? Okay, it says, this is what each of us get, and that's super important. But does it also say what happens if someone wants to walk away?
Mhm.
What are the expectations of each person? So you have a measurable, because otherwise you get this like, oh, he's not doing enough. He's not doing enough. Well, who's to say, what is your expectation of my role and what's my expectation of my role if it's not clearly defined? So that was definitely a mutual fault on both of our parts. There are other things too where money starts coming in and it's really is like it's like a marriage.
Mhm.
And I thought you were one person, and then it seems like now you seem to be like a different person. That was another thing, but I'm not going to put, the first part was on us both. And
Mhm.
then, you think, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to be buddies. And we were making money, but money can change people. And
Yep.
it just, a lot of things started to come to light, like I think money is a magnifier, right? It's either going to magnify
Exposes.
if you're a nice person, you're a nice person with money. If you're a jerk, you're a jerk with money, right? Like, so it's going to kind of like, and that brings a lot of that stuff out. And so, and our goals ultimately were very different. I don't think he would ever sell, and that's all I want to do. I don't,
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I did. I totally understand that. I mean, that exactly what you just stated tends to be an issue with a lot of partnerships. Whether it's a partnership in a marriage and they're doing business together, or it's a partnership in between buddies, or it's a partnership. Typically, we see partnerships between people that are like they don't know each other, they're unrelated, don't know each other, and it was strictly a business transaction. They tend to be more structured like that because it's easy for two strangers to walk up and go, "Hey,
Right.
this is my area of expertise." It's the whole visionary versus integrator. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they get together and they say, "This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm good at. These are my expectations. These are my expectations." We'll put it in black and white. But when you're emotionally attached to that, you got a friendship, you got a marriage, there's trust.
Yeah.
And as soon as you break that trust, can it ever be regained? That's tough. And like you said, money changes things. It's an idea when you don't have any. And then when you start to bring it in, all of a sudden, like you said, it exposes those cracks and those weaknesses and those truths about who those people really
How
are.
you spend it? What are you going to allocate it for? I mean,
You got to reinvest. Sometimes people don't want to reinvest. Like we got to buy this. Oh no, I want to go buy a car. We can't. We need new roofing equipment, or we need new ladders, or we got to hire another crew. We need that for payroll. There's all these different things. So yeah, it's a very common issue, and like you said in the very beginning of that, it's really important for listeners to understand that is a part of entrepreneurship when you're talking about, because they think there's two of us. We can go further with two of us. You can go further with two of you, but you can also crash a lot faster too if you're not
Yeah.
careful.
My wife hates, and I'm going to get her on the show. She was supposed to be on, today. We had a procedure this morning. You guys
Yeah,
know that.
absolutely. We'll have her on the next one.
She's obviously she's an attorney, but she also is like, always helping us. And we can go more into when she comes on kind of, she doesn't do a ton with the company. We started originally like playing with some of it, but I don't think mature enough or I don't know. I wasn't there yet. I was very like, this is my baby. And, I don't know. And now
How
I
long have you
feel
guys been
very
together?
much,
How long have you been together?
well, we dated for 2 years before we got married. So our first year married, so 3 years in August.
Okay.
But we knew each other before, mind you. We
Sure.
dated a brief little stint there right after college and then came back. So
I got you. But I mean, as far as like putting a lot of time in with each other and trusting somebody with your baby and stuff, it is still fairly new, we'll call it. I
yeah,
think most relationships are probably pretty new for the first at least 5 years. You're still kind of learning each other. I don't feel like me and
it's
Shelly.
you try to protect though the other person too from knowing like all the financial struggles or all that's on their
right.
shoulders because you don't want her to feel
We
that.
built what we have together, and I still did that with her. And we've been
Yeah.
together over 22 years.
Which is foolish and that's crazy, by the way. That's awesome. I would have never even guessed you guys were old enough to be there together 20. Were you high school sweethearts or something?
We were,
Yeah.
yes. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. And
Awesome.
we waited 8 years to get married, and then we, 6 years, and then we waited 2 more years to have our first kid and planned everything out. I mean, we've got a lot of success together, and through that we've been able to develop ways for people to do this together, whether it be a partnership or a
And we're
relationship.
lucky enough to be able to grow together instead of apart. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
That's amazing, man. And I honestly regret that. What I was kind of getting at is, and I'm trying to fix it now. But the irony is, like, she's like, dude, I don't want anything to do with any of your stuff. But I don't know if she means it 100% or not, right? I don't think she like loves the camera and stuff like that. But she'll do it. She also has to be like cognizant of like some of her role and stuff at work, but she can do
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And
But
we
I
would
mean,
never do anything to like try to expose somebody in a bad light or anything like that's not what we're all about.
yeah, no, I know you guys would, and then that's why she was like, no, yeah, I would be. But
And
I
I
guess
totally understand the situation. So
for my normal, like even trying to include her in the business, she's like, we started, and then again, I took a poor approach. I was really like everything was personal. Because I like everything felt like an attack on my beautiful little baby here, and it's like now I'm like, okay, you're much better with money than I am. You're much better. I mean, by nature, just a lot of things. And Andy actually posted something about, I guess, going to his wife and like she was busting his chops about like they were making good money or he was making good money. But she's like, look, if you want to be a multimillionaire, yeah, you do. Okay, cool. Give me your card. Here's a gas card. Like you're doing dumb, frivolous purchases with money, even though you think you have it. I probably do that all the time.
yeah,
And I'm
I
sure
know I do. I know I'm
maybe
guilty.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, she's pointing them. I won't even pretend that I don't, and it's a mindset shift. But it's
but
when
you also have to reward yourself. So it's finding that balance about how much
Right.
should I spend
Balance.
and
Balance.
how much should I not? You know what I mean?
And I mean,
but do you
even
want to go next level or not?
yeah,
So,
that's the
like
thing.
you said, you went all in, and there's her being in the business and helping you on the business, but there's also her as a wife and a
Protecting.
spouse just supporting you doing what you're doing. So whether she's working in it or helping you work on it, if she's working on you, she's helping you with your business because you're taking that into your business.
100%. And I think my next play is, as we've been talking about, like, look, I really want, and we've been talking about this forever, but I think actually the missus just hit that nail on the head. Like, I want to, but like in another sense, I feel like I'm like protecting her from like, because she's still like what seems like these massive deals to her are inconsequential often to me because like we'll spend a couple $100,000 or 20 30 G's on this or that, like that's just part of business. But to her, she's like, holy crap, like that just, so I've got to like slowly, I feel like micro dose her with like some of this, like before she's just like, dude, what? Like, I don't want to give her like a heart attack. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, all right, I don't know.
It's
I
kind
want
of
to
it's
bring her
hard
into
to
that, but
expose all your business secrets sometimes
right.
to the other person.
Well, because you don't
Right.
know how they're going to
You don't
handle
want to
it.
be judged. You don't want to be judged. You don't want to be told that you're doing it incorrectly.
That's
But
like you said
That's
earlier.
it's
part of
painful.
it too. Yeah.
So
Because you're like,
Like,
this is my baby. I've done it right. I don't want you to tell me I'm doing it wrong. I think I've got it going right, you know?
of course, there's a part too where it's like, well, I like the autonomy of just like, well, if I want to do this, but like I want to do that with a partner, man. I really do. So like she's never once been like, don't do whatever. She knows, if anything, she's always had this like belief in me that helps me more than anything. Because at times I didn't have it, where like, or I didn't realize I did, where she's just like, I'll hear her say something about me that gives me more power in me, and that if that makes any sense. Like she'll say like, you never worry about money, never worry about money because you're always just like, we'll just make more. But she means that like as a very polite, like, hey, you always do, and like sometimes I need to hear that because I'm like, you know what, you're right. I know that's an abundance mindset. And the irony is that this year, I'm like, I gotta go all in. I'm gonna liquidate this, liquidate this. I did a lot of things that I would not normally do. And I thought it was and I still think it was a good idea. But I gotta say, man, I feel like there's something to. It's been the toughest year so far, but there's a lot of outside external factors for sure. But just even in like the scale and like the winner and how quickly that return on investment comes back. Sometimes I'm like, is some of that anything to do with like my mindset shift from like abundance and like, yeah, I'll just do whatever. Like, I don't know, man. I'm really big on that stuff.
The mindset shift, this is such a difficult thing for a lot of people to understand, and you get it. It's not something that's hard for you to understand. It was something that was hard for me to understand, is that it's almost an addition by subtraction type mentality. I did it with my company. I thought I needed a big company that made multiple millions of dollars and I had 20 trucks and I had all these employees. But what I found was it wasn't about how much money I was making, it was how much money am I keeping, you know? And I could find that I could keep more money with half of what I had going on. I could keep more money. So my footprint looks freaking awesome, right? I look like this huge thing. But when you start to talk about a private equity buyout or something like that, they're looking at the numbers. They don't care if you've got all those liabilities and assets and stuff. They want to know how much money that company is keeping at the end of the year,
100%.
right?
100.
The mindset shift is I believe that there is something better or a better way or something bigger or this manifestation of a better possibility than what I currently have. And when you change that and things don't go exactly like you thought, you start to doubt yourself. But that again is that valley of despair, like Hormozy talks about, that people always stop and don't get through. They
Yeah.
they think about it, they hit that bottom and they don't push through it to the other side. They give up because they go back to what was comfortable and that was what was working, what they thought about before.
Yep.
But the new life you're wanting to manifest has to go a different path. So you have to think a different way, go through those steps again, like Brandon James talked about, get through the suck, push through the other side. And if you know that it will be, and that's your vision, and you're dead set on that's what it's going to be, and you don't quit, you can't kill the guy that don't quit. You don't
Yeah,
quit.
that's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be.
What it's going to be.
But to your point, I'm not. I mean, that's what I was just telling the guys. I was like, dude, look, it's going to still like I'm still confident. Like, we'll if not like we need to reevaluate and take a look at. We had some really, really, and I do this usually on purpose. Like I have like this goal and then the real goal. And then like that's like the lowest acceptable, right? Like this is the real, but man, I'm shooting for the moon, right? And
Sure,
so
absolutely.
we'll go back and look at like I'd say realistically, we're probably like 2 months behind because the winter was always going to be we were always going to operate in the red. And I mean, a guy like some of these bigger companies, they always operate in the red in the winter because of what we do, right? And like then we look at profit, like, okay, well, how do we increase? Because you're right, that's all they care about, they being private equity. Like, you could be a $100 million a year outfit, but if you're only 10% net profit, well, you're a $10 million a year company. You're
And that's
not.
a hell of a lot of liability for $10 million if you're not.
Exactly. Because our goals are, you could be half of that realistically 50 million but you're still a $10 million a year company. So like which is better, right? So obviously the 50, right? So like and I can take he's gonna say, but that's been our big thing is like, and it's basic math. Like, okay, well, now you have two offices. So if you're not, double where you were supposed to be at this point in the year, that's not gonna look sexy, right? So like we knew again the winter was going to be okay. That's the seeding period, right? Like we're spending money, we're hiring folks, we're training those folks, we're getting them ready, and frankly, the turnaround on this stuff with insurance takes time anyhow, right? Like you can go out and do 60 plus claims filed, but you're not going to see the results on that until the following month. You know what I mean? And so like, and that's kind of where we're at, right? Is that return on investment period, right? And like trying to stay diligent and to your point, like manage cash flow and what's become an even longer turnaround for the companies that are tightening their belt. The variable with insurance is one that is a real pain, man, because it's just you can't control it. You can just go with it. You can't swim it. You can either swim against it or try and like work within it, right? And it's like it's not like retail. I think that's another strategic move we can look at is like, okay, we should probably, in private equity, frankly, in my market, wants a better mix of retail and insurance because we're not traditionally a storm state.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I get that. And I think that will help for cash flow too, but just learning those things, man. Like I really wanted to condense down to what we know they want and what we know was our driving force. And frankly, get really, really good at that. Even though I felt good about it, I didn't want my focus on four things. I wanted to be on one thing, and I guess again, the irony is that like I did that and I like committed all in and it's just like keeping that like energy to be like, hell yeah, even though it's like, okay, now we're 2 months past that point where I'm expecting to really see that like massive return on investment. It's business, man. Like, what are you going to do? There's nowhere but through, there's nowhere out but through. And like, we got to just keep pushing, keep being motivated. And it's going to happen. It's going to change. It's going to, the results will be there because they have to be. And that's just all there is to it, But to be telling you like, hey, on paper that right this second on the year, well, no, winter was, we knew what winter was going to be. Quarter two, I'd say we're probably like a month behind schedule, but holler at me at the end of the year. I'm confident by the end of the year, I'm going to say, yeah, dude, we're up. We're, just like we thought we'd be. And
Well, and I
so,
appreciate the honesty because that's what I want people to hear. I want them to understand through entrepreneurship and starting businesses and all this. It's not sexy all the time.
no,
Sometimes you set a goal and you're months behind. Sometimes something gets thrown at you, a wrench, and it screws everything up. And you got to
yeah,
find a different path to that goal because the original one no longer is viable. It just doesn't work.
It's all about the average. What do you look like at the end of the year?
yeah,
Month to month. Let's get to the end of the year and see what your big.
Because there's
where
some
you're at.
people that well, heck, Michael Burt wants daily goals. When you watch his stuff, I mean, when his sales team, they get together every day with daily goals. We look at weekly averages and monthly averages when I work on things because one week might be stellar and the next, but that's the season of the business. You might get hammered with a bunch of work to do 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks is average. But if these two stellar weeks were well above average and the two average weeks were average, you put those together and you might have had a stellar month altogether.
yeah.
So you do a couple of those by the end of the year and you can be right on pace. So
Yeah,
I don't ever
100.
look at the week to week. You try to track things day to day. Like I keep my eye on it and all that. But what I see though is two things that you said. So I got a question real quick before I get too far away from it. When you originally started this, it was your baby. That's what you said. So when people start businesses that way with that mentality, with that mindset, it's the way we started our trucking company. Like, I will make this. This is my vision. These are my principles. These are my standards. When you shift that to now, I have to give this private equity market what it wants to make this thing what it wants so I can sell it. Do you feel like maybe that has been difficult or that is part of an issue for you? Because it's like, I'm no longer able to do it the way that Ken wanted to do it. I have to do it now for what looks the best to them. And so
Yeah.
I have to sacrifice maybe service, or I have to sacrifice the type of work I'd want to do or the type of clients I'd want to work with. Do you think that maybe that's difficult?
Yeah, I do. It's played a huge role in like the moves or we did or didn't make. I mean, there's a few examples I could provide even just this year. I mean, this whole year has been like the perfect storm of lessons learned. Like there was already the scale, which was we planned and knew, okay, we're going to operate in the red for a little bit. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to do that to make more money, right? Then on top of that, to your point, the Fair Labor Standards Act, it's federal, was basically, hey, that's all the talk in the roofing industry because most of these guys are 1099 and it's, well, you got the W-2. And we knew that there were some PE firms that wanted 1099, some that wanted W-2. Well, the ones we're talking to currently here in our market, because I do believe it's relative to the market and it's also relative to who you're talking to and what they want. But they wanted more W-2. So
Yeah.
risk, and that's another thing. Like you always got to look at risk because that's what they're looking at. So it's like, well, are we prepared to take on 11% more per rep right now? And when we're already operating the no, but we got to do it, right? And then in addition to cash flow, it's just one thing after another, but it's like, well, we got to make it work, right? Like we switched from cash to accrual accounting because that's what they want, right? We didn't want to do that right now, but that's what it just is what it is, right? So, and then, I'd love to have, I would probably have all kinds of stuff going on because that's how I am. Like, oh, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's,
Squirrel everywhere.
oh, exactly. This can make money, that can make money. And,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, what do they want? And they want a nice mix of retail. And so it's like, well, there you go. I guess we'll add in some retail and I know how to do that really well. That'll help out with cash flow. So, it is different because it's putting you in a box of like, well, you want to be what they want. You know what I mean? And so we're trying to do things the way we know to do them, but to replicate what we know they want.
Not that it takes the passion out of it, but do you feel like it makes you a little? I think I heard Tim Grover say this. He said that doing business on a high level doesn't make you heartless, but it makes you use your heart less. So you become like where I still am passionate about it and I love this industry or I like what I do, but I don't love this anymore. Like I found myself falling into that hole where it's like when you try to grow and scale and become this bigger thing and lose a little bit of that personal touch that your company had, or like you talked about the 1099 to W-2, that was a big thing in the trucking industry. Everybody was 1099. They were all just drivers. Well, they come in and say, yeah, but do they make their own schedule? Do they pay for their own fuel? Do they make the truck payments? So then an oversight on our part was we'll switch everybody to W-2. It'll be a lot easier. What did we just incur by doing that? An added expense that we didn't see. Well, everybody wants benefits. Let's get a group plan together. What was my oversight there? Well, I have to pay 50% of their premium. So I added all these expenses on to attract better people. And at the end of the day, they still wanted more money. It wasn't the benefits, but I just added all that added expense in newer trucks. Federal regulations were like, we don't want all these old non-emissions trucks. We want emissions trucks. What comes along with emissions trucks? Emissions problems. So now you're at dealerships or you're buying software and then you got to hire mechanics and all this added expense. Well, what happens is at the end of the day, it makes your numbers not look as good as the numbers you're actually doing because you had to have all this nonsense over here to make yourself look the part and you really end up not being the part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
I
hard
mean,
out,
and like I said, man, and I wanted to come on here. Dude, I'm trying to be as authentic. Like I'm so over, you and I have talked a lot, man. And like, you guys do a great job. You and the missus are like got just an awesome team and really putting yourself out there and getting the viewers. And I do a lot of social media and I've got my own podcast and I'm trying to build a brand and I have a future I want to create in that market. And I say that to say like I want to be authentic, man. I have no point. Like I don't want to, I'm not, what is it good does it do to if I'm trying to provide value and I'm going through something that's like the perfect opportunity to provide value, but I just BS it and like, oh, everything's great and we're kicking ass and here's my Ferrari and like, no,
Yeah.
dude, I sold my sports car. I like that's what this really is. Like, you know what I mean? I want
Yeah.
to be able to passively get whatever I want whenever I want. In order to do that, I have to relinquish some things now. And then guess what? Things don't always happen on the timetable you had planned, right? Like, especially when you insert a variable you don't control. And it's just like, it's part of it, man. If you have the stomach for it, that's why we're so few and that like a very small percent of the population could do what we do in that. And I don't mean to say that like how great, it's just we have the
No,
stomach.
it's the stomach, it's the mindset, it's the willingness to push through that adversity. It's the willingness to push through it, fail, push through it, fail, push through it, fail, and keep getting up and redoing it. You know what I mean? Everybody's a fighter so they get punched in the face, right?
100%.
Right? You
And
get punched in the face. That's what Mike Tyson said. Everybody's a fighter, they get punched in the face.
yeah, everybody's a tough guy till they get punched in the face. And
Everybody's
then
a tough guy.
you got your life on top of it, right? So there's
Yeah.
the business, the business, the business, and then like, God forbid, life shows up. You know what I mean? And it's
And it
just like
does. It's not if, it's when.
always does, always does. And you and I were
Does.
talking. I'm trying to build a family. I'm trying to, I'm doing all these things, and I'm in recovery, right? And I say all this because I just met with my sponsor last night, and I've been in a really tough place, man. To be honest with you, my mental, it's just been weird. But here's what happens with me, and I'll tell you why. And sometimes you just need. That's why it's so great to have great mentorship, man. Whether you're in sobriety or not, like
Yes.
somebody you can see, and you may already know, but then like in a great partner and pull you up and say, "Hey, probably already know this, but you need to hear it." And I have to have that. My life depends on it. He's going to tell me what I don't want to hear, and it's things like, when you focus on the business, for example, right? And we have a tendency to obsess, right? And like for someone like me, if I get all my focus caught up into the business, the things, like basically, long story short, when I achieve private equity selling, I'm going to be happy. That's going to make me happy. That's going to fix whatever, right? Like that's this thing I'm now fixated on. It really takes all the love, like you said, and I'm piggybacking off of that. Like when I should be focused on, I want to be the best roofing company or the best company for my people and for my customers. And while I don't think that I still say all of those things, but like that's got to be really truly in my heart. Like I have to have faith, real faith, real faith that like God and if is God going to back that? And I don't mean to get all preachy, man, but this for me
No,
is
you're fine.
how I live, dude. So
Yeah.
like it's life or death for me. So I have to like
It's what we all have in common, believe it or not. It's why we're all attracted to each other. The law of attraction, the book you read,
yeah,
that's why this all makes sense. That's why we're on a phone call with each other
right.
this far apart. This is why we connect with people in Arizona and Texas and Utah and all over the world, because we don't have a lot of people like this typically around us in our day to day. We don't. I mean, if I look in the St. Louis market, even if I live outside of St. Louis about 45 minutes, I know a handful of individuals that I even kind of connect with. And even kind of connecting with them, I still don't connect with them on this level, because
Right.
this is when you talk about we trying to be authentic and the brand that you're building and your YouTube channel and your podcast and everything you're doing, that's because, tell me if I'm wrong or not, because I feel like I took a similar journey. I found a purpose. And I feel like the purpose was bigger than the business that I was doing and money I was making. The purpose was bringing this journey to other people and helping them through their journey, and growing these relationships and these partnerships, and basically spreading that good word and positivity to everybody else. Because at the end of the day, my religion's a big part of what we do too. It's a big
Yes.
part of our life. It's how we raise our kids. It's the moral compass and the moral foundation that we've given them. They go to private school. I grew up in Alateen. My mom was an alcoholic and a drug addict. I
Wow.
watched her go
Yeah,
through all
yeah.
the 12-step
Tell me
programs,
that.
man. I watched her fall off the wagon a million times. I watched her struggles, and how that affected us. And so I can relate to what you're going through because I was there.
Yeah.
And finding other people like that, it sounds foreign when you talk to people that don't understand it. You're like,
Right.
yeah, I'm working this
Right.
12-step program. And I talk to my sponsor and they're like, dude, just get over. You're making a bunch of money and you're in business and you're doing
Right.
great. You
Right.
look great. You got these suits and this big life going on. Your wife's an attorney. Like, what the fuck do you got a problem? Excuse my language,
Right.
but what the
Right.
fuck you got a problem about, right?
Right.
No, we still have problems. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
People with a lot of money doesn't mean they don't have problems. They just have different problems than you have. Maybe they're not trying to survive every day. Maybe they're trying to live, and living and surviving are not the same thing.
There you go. And I mean, because that's the thing. It's like, somebody who's not like in that world will look at like, oh, well, you got a lot of money. Well, that's what we probably focused on, and that's what led us to feeling so crazy in the first place, because that money was something that at one point I'm sure I thought was going to, and then you make it and it doesn't fix you. And then you get the things and it doesn't fix you, or it doesn't sustain you. And I've learned that lesson over and over and over, man. And right now, Brandon actually and I were talking, who's also, somebody that I talk about. Now he's comfortably and pretty open about his past and everything,
Yeah.
and helps me so much, man, because we're in the same spot. He's further than me in what he's done in his business, but like we're in the same space in terms of what we do in our how we survive on day to day, right? He's able to talk to me on a one-on-one, like, hey, are you still going to meetings? What's going on?
Yeah.
He always brings up God, and he's like, look, man, basically check check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? Like to put it eloquently, like you're focusing on the things, and I'm trying to control too much. Let me just really break this down for somebody who isn't like, I sold all the things, I did all this stuff, I got all these great plans, I'm putting it all into action, and I'm the guy who's going to control all that. I'm going to make it all happen, right? And it's like that is so dangerous for someone like me, because when I take the wheel back, I always ride. I'm start banging into guardrails, right? And I get frustrated because I'm trying to go this way and it's swerving right. In reality, man, when I give that wheel back to, for me, my higher power, God, right? Like I've got to, dude. I have to, because the irony is the second I relinquish that and I stop focusing on like, I got to do all these things to hit, for private equity and sell. And it's like, well, why? Why are you going to do that? Why do you want to make this money? Why do you want to do this? And you focus on helping people and being the best roofing company or best company for my employees, and be able to provide opportunities for people and be able to provide great business for people out there, my customers, and like just focus on that. All that other shit will come easier, way faster. And like,
Is a
you know,
byproduct.
as a byproduct, dude, by ironically not focusing on those things. And it's
Yeah.
like, for me,
The
I
thing
gotta
you
be
want to achieve, you achieve on accident by focusing on what you should be focusing
the
on.
byproduct by focusing on, for me, a spiritual existence. Period. Like I have to. I will try and control, and I'll get to where I'm at right now, which is just running into the wall over and over and over and over. And on the outside, it looks great, but it's like I'm miserable, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm not, I'm irritable. When I've been so much more content with absolutely nothing, and it's like, so I've learned that lesson, but it's like I get pulled right back in, man. I get pulled right back in, and next thing you know, it's the suits, it's the muscles, it's the cars. Like those are all great, and they're fun, but they cannot be my focus. And I have to be reminded of that over and over and over and over to get to where I ultimately want to go. But moreover, reminded of why do I want to get there? And for me, it's more balance, dude. I have to have more balance. I won't get there without it. And my sponsor really pointed out, like, your sobriety is measured by how much you're willing to be inconvenienced by it, right? He said that last night. I thought that was really, are you putting your sobriety at the forefront? Because for me, it has to be number one, because that sobriety is the link in the chain to my connection, right? To my higher power. And I'll get real caught up in me controlling everything. And again, like whenever I do that, it just doesn't go well. Whenever I'm spiritually fit and focused on helping someone else and doing the next right thing, and it just so happens that I own a roofing business and I have a goal to do this private equity thing, I guarantee you I'll get there so much faster. And I don't know, hopefully last night was this big paradigm shift. I've had a few of these in my sobriety where it's like,
Yeah.
feel miserable enough, you do something about it. Feel miserable enough, you do something about it. And it's like, I know we sat on the water last night for about an hour and a half, 2 hours in his beautiful house, and like just him telling me the things I needed to hear. And I feel great today. We had a great morning, and it's like a whole new perspective, man. Like, instead of just obsessing about like what isn't going right, what isn't, what it's just like, you're pretty damn blessed, dude, with what you got.
Yes.
One,
You got to remind yourself of that all the time.
all the
You
time.
know what I mean? All the time, you got to count your blessings. They say that. And there's a lot of things that are said that I think people take for granted. And to talk about all this shit you're going through, it's kind of funny how, like you said, I just so happen to have a roofing company, right? Our whole life is this book. Like we're writing this book, right? And we don't know from the day that we're born, every decision we make, good or bad, we're writing this book of this journey that we created. I created a company along the way. And when I started, I created the company because I wanted an opportunity to make a bunch of money. Money was my focus. I was 27 when I started my first
cool.
company. Okay.
Right.
Was going to college, whole 9 yards. She's a teacher. She was going to school to be a teacher. And so then I chased this money for all this time. And my mind, I feel like, was in this little box. If you could fit your whole mind in this little square right here, that's where my mind was. It's in this little box. And then you start to get older, and with age, you start to have a family, and they start to teach you patience. Like kids will teach you lessons. And I laugh about this because I said, you'll never meet anything in your life that takes you so close to killing it, but you won't because you love it so much. And so what that does is it breaks you. It's like breaking a horse. You know what I mean? It breaks you. It takes that anger away. It brings more love. It pours more into you and your soul. Well, then your mind starts to change because you're like, now my purpose isn't to make money to have cool shit. My mind is, I need to provide for my family. So now I need to make money to provide, right? So I'm providing, and then they have all these nice things. Okay, well, they have all these nice things, but now I'm not around to enjoy it with them. She's not around to enjoy it with them. Now
That's
my
what he
mind
said last night, by the way.
now my mind changes again because now my purpose isn't to provide nice things for them. It's to give me some time to spend with them. Because at the end of the day, the most valuable thing, and everybody will argue this. I know Andy will argue this because he thinks
Yes, he
it's
will.
attention, right? It's your time. Okay. If I'm on this conversation with you and I have your attention right now, that's great. I'm more than blessed to have your attention. I appreciate that. But the time that I spent right here with you, that's the valuable part because once we spend it, it's gone. I can
Yeah.
have your attention again Friday. I can have your attention after this. I can have your attention again. The time that we spent together, gone. Can't get it back.
Nope.
So then your mind keeps shifting. Well, then it got to a point where it's like you, I'm a business owner. I've created this life, this journey. I'm writing a book as I go, not physically, personally, but I am writing a book, and maybe one day it actually will be a book. Same struggles you did growing up. I grew up with nothing when I was younger. I mean, we moved to my father's house when I was about 9, 10 years old, and it gave me the breath that I needed to be whoever I wanted to be. But up until that point, I took care of my younger siblings, ate rice and cinnamon toast for dinner. My mom always had cigarettes. I wore clothes from, the second time around store, things that were given to us, Holy jeans. I'll never forget the story I told her about, I get this brand new shirt. It was like a really nice Tommy Hilfiger shirt. And I went to school, went to class, and was in third grade. And I sit down and I'm so happy. And this kid, Tyler, looks over and goes, that was my shirt. My mom just dropped that off like 2 days ago. And I was like, so here I am thinking I got something nice and new, and it's his.
Oh man.
And now it's not mine anymore. You know what I mean? Like, not boohooing on myself or anything like that, but like going through all that to think to where we are today, never, ever, ever could have possibly imagined being where I am today. But every one of those shifts and a higher being pushing you along the way and driving the car and you allowing them to do that. We have a rule. What's that rule? The 3 rule. The 3 push rule.
Yeah.
Okay. If we do something and it pushes back 3 times, we stop and we go a different direction because
It shouldn't be that hard.
it shouldn't be that hard. So, like you talked about banging against the guardrails and banging your head. If I got this idea and I'm like, it's going to work like this and it's going to work like this, it doesn't mean the goal changes, but maybe the way I'm going about it is not the right way. 1, 2, 3. I bang my head off of it. I try a different route. If it keeps not working, I have to abandon that. I have to know when to cut my losses. Even though I thought it was a great idea, somebody else is telling me if you keep pushing, it's going to happen and it's not going to be good for you. So stop. And I relieved myself of that anxiety by allowing myself to feel that and allowing him to just take it over. So faith is a very big part. I don't Bible thump and I don't even attend church every Sunday like I should. But if I were to tell you I didn't believe in a higher being and God doesn't exist, I would strike me dead right now. I absolutely know that I have asked for more in this life than I deserve. And every time I asked for an opportunity always presented itself. And there was only one person I ever asked for that opportunity ever.
Yeah.
Well,
So I said, man, it's life and death for folks in sobriety, and you know that all too well with your mom, man. And it's just like you don't have to be like this religion or that religion. It's just the idea is a higher power. But I was raised Christian, and just for me, man, it's and I think for a lot of us, because anybody can really relate to this, but you just nailed all of it. I mean, like you don't. I think a lot of successful folks, you still practice gratitude. We all like, there's a lot of the trends and the things and the cold plunges and the steps in the morning or whatever, right?
making
Like,
your
but
bed, all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, man, like, I think the same struggles are there too, man. And like, for me, when I try to control too much, when I try, like, I don't know, it almost is like a conflicting feeling. And that's like when I relinquish control and I don't focus on those things, that's when I get them, right? Or if I don't, that's okay too, right? That I've got to be, but like praying for Brandon says, if I don't, if God can't trust me with 10,000, why would he trust me with 1,000,000, right? And so like, and I think about that with him in particular, and like, am I there right now? You know what I mean? Am I there mentally? Like, not forget financially, but like, am I there to where I'm like, man, is my relationship with my spiritual relationship, my higher power, like, is that good? Because if that isn't, then everything else is jacked up. Like, and that's the first place I need to go whenever I feel crappy. But I don't know why I don't, man. But that's why I'm in recovery, and that's why I have a sponsor to be like, yo, dude, like, I'm gonna tell you the same things I always tell you, but that's why we exist. And I'm going to pull you back and plop you over here in the passenger seat. And I'd be willing to bet, man, that, if I practice certain principles and gratitude routines, because really I didn't even think about it, but dude, gratitude is just so much at play in that too, where it's like, hey, how about you be happy like what you have? If you're not happy with what you have, it's going to be very difficult to get more. Like God tends to bless when it's like, okay, this guy's
never enough,
dude. Here we go, right? But if it's like I'm just obsessively like, yeah, that's great, dude. Here, I got to get this private equity. I got to get this. This guy just exited. What about me, 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 me? Like, how about you focus on who you have, what you have? That's great that you have plans and goals, but like, and just be the best. I just worry about being spiritually fit, and the rest I think tends to. I guess if I could say anything, and I don't know, I feel like I'm a little all over the place, but I'm just being as authentic as I possibly can. I had that conversation last night. And if you had talked to me 2 days before that, I was freaking miserable. Seriously, man, miserable. And it's
we have those days. I probably have those days weekly.
Yeah.
There's days where I wake up and I'm like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, in the whole day, it tends to be Mondays for me, but the whole day just goes that way. And if I give it power, it just gets worse.
That's you just said it. If you give it power, dude, that's what I said. You open that negativity door, you crack it, and it's like it just fucking kicks
it open. Yeah.
Right. There's floodgates of like negative, negative. And then you start now, all you see is the negative. All you perceive is the negative. And it's like that whole, like you said, mindset. You start doubting, you start like thinking like you didn't used to think. And then you try to fix it by your way. Control, 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 control. And it's like you only see what's going wrong. We're not doing enough. We're not getting return on investment. They're not selling enough. They're not
But
closing
you get what you focus on. And if you're
100%.
focusing on that, that's what you're
Focus
going to
on
get.
grows what you 100%. What you focus on grows, and that's all the stuff I've been talking about the last couple of days with the men in my life. All those things, man, has been like, Kenny, what you focus on grows. You need to focus. And so if I focus on what's good, what I'm grateful for, and spirituality by proxy, the rest just, I'm decent. I like to think at, what I've done before, but it's because God's put me in a position to be able to do that, and remembering that part
And being thankful for it, the struggles, being thankful for the triumphs, being thankful for even the inconveniences. Like your sponsor said, how much are you able to embrace the inconvenience of the sobriety? The conversation you have to have with people to let them know that, hey, this is my past and it's a part of who I am and who I am today. Whether you like that or not, I don't matter, but I need you to understand that's who I am. This is the shit I've been through. If I did jail time, I did jail time. Okay, let's get that off the table. So now we know this is who you're dealing with. It's not who I was, or it's who I was, it's not who I am. But this is what I am. This is part of my journey. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be authentic. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I feel compelled, and I think that was a big part of why originally I was so motivated to do a lot of the social media stuff and everything. Like, I was excited to put that out there because I used to be so full of fear about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to show this other side because I feel crappy about, what, but embracing it and having the mindset of like, look, man, a lot of people have been there. And if anything, you can give people some hope in that, God willing, you're able to climb and do these things that you want to do. But even if you didn't, look at where you're at now. That's going to provide so much hope to somebody that might be going through that right now. And if you do continue to climb, which I believe I will, because I've been very blessed, like I can show that to somebody in real time that's like struggling there or maybe a few years behind me. And like, I just think there was that was really my motivator for the longest time, and needs to be now, man. It's just like every time I focus back on helping other people, spiritually fit, the rest just flows, man. And I don't know. I don't know if that helps you or somebody on here, but like,
Oh, absolutely.
you're banging your head against the wall or you're trying to steer everything and control everything and you got all these plans and everything like that, I might, caution you to consider, who really should be driving. You know what I mean? And
Oh, absolutely.
may have an easier time of achieving what you're trying to achieve if you'd only be a little bit more grateful or being willing to relinquish control, which sounds crazy, but for me, it's the only way I'm going to get there.
But if you tell me that, and Brandon says that, and I say that, and Andy says that, and Stuman says that, and all these people that most of the people in our environment are watching or look up to, if every one of those people are saying it, and I can show you how that was part of my journey and how it helped me. How much validation do you need? I mean, if you're trying to emulate the people you want to be, if you're trying to emulate the things that they've achieved, and they're saying, this is how I did it, and you're going, well, there's got to be a quicker, easier way. There isn't a quicker, easy way.
Oh.
You go through this to get there. And your 2-year exit, maybe you bang your head against the wall, and your 2-year exit's a 10-year exit. I mean, hopefully it's not. Hopefully it is a 2-year exit. The goal in mind is a 2-year exit.
No.
But if you get to the end of 2 years and you capture the rabbit, so to speak, then what?
Yeah, that's his
You've been
point.
dead focused for 2 years to capture the rabbit. I caught it. Now where do I go?
Right.
I gotta have the foresight to be looking 5 years ahead
100%.
to get through the 2-year goal, to start working on the 3-year goal, to start working on the 10-year goal.
Yep. And that was his point. It's like, look, I know you're not going to stop, so you do it, and that's great. That's wonderful. And I'm not saying not to do that, but like, what are they going to, what would people say about you at your funeral, right? Like, think about that now. Like, we all think we're going to have that time, and that's wonderful. Maybe you will, but like, if you just obsessively that's all there is, that's all there is, that's all there is. And let's say you get there and you think like, well, yeah, when I get there, then I'm gonna be, there for other people. Then I'm gonna be focused on other people. Then I'm gonna be able to help other people. Like, you might not get there, man. And like, are they gonna say, wow, he had a really great business? Or are they gonna say, man, that guy was a really stand-up guy who helped a lot of people and really brought a lot of change and growth into this world? It's just, for me, it's balance, man. Like, I can have those goals, but I have to be okay with, I got to have some faith, dude. How about that? I got to have some faith, right? And really lean into that. And recently I've been way too me,